Good afternoon. How are we doing? I never want to do that again. Yeah, you got to it's going to be a long summer. You got to keep the energy up. You got to be ready. You have to be able to handle the disappointment, the sadness, the upset, the problems, the concerns, um the loss, the gain, the wins, the loses. Oh, Delap, leaning towards Chelsea. It's big news dropping. The Ipswich LeBron James to Chelsea is heating up. It's heating up. It's heating up, guys. I think we're losing Liam Delap. How will we ever replace those 10 non-penalty goals? How? Chat. How? How are we going to replace 10 non-penalty goals? Thank you guys for being here. Good morning, good afternoon. Not really good morning anymore, but then again, good evening, good evening, good evening. All right, it's time. It's time to move. Let's talk. Let's yap. Let's get to it, okay? There's a few things I want to talk about today, but the first big story, the story of the moment, the thing that is live situation is we see a brief that came out from two United journalists just now that Liam Delap was going to be letting us know next week. Now, here's the problem, all right? We'll talk about this in a minute. But the problem is, at the same time, journalists who are seemingly a bit closer to Chelsea are saying the following. Chelsea are closing in on a move for Liam Delap after positive talks. Our lack of European football has weakened our position. Newcastle and Everton have also held talks, but Delap is now leaning towards Chelsea. Now, thank you guys. By the way, please make sure to like the stream. I didn't ask at the beginning to like. I didn't ask until the end to like. And then I wrote down in the comments to please like, and you guys did. But I need a lot more, and I need to be better about remembering. So while you're here, please like the stream, because we're just getting going. And it means a lot to me, and I need to be better at being a YouTuber. I always say that. I was on a good run where I was starting to ask. You know, and then I forget because I'm just bad at this. Um, I'm just bad at this. Firmly in the box seat, a big negative for Manchester United. This is, to me, a blessing in disguise, okay? A blessing in disguise because let's talk about it. All right? The character assassination of Liam Delap is here, all right? The character of, oh, you're right. Type it in the chat. Oh, Jonathan Hammond, you're back with another 10, my friend. Thank you so much for being here once again. How are you doing this, man? How are you doing this? Hyper Shane, Soham, Schwan, Siram, Red, Asa, no, Michael, Parney, Shahid, and James Stewart, and Nathan Faisal all receiving a gift. Appreciate that very much, Jonathan. You are incredible. You are incredible. But this could be a blessing in disguise. Listen, all season, Jonathan, legend that is Jonathan Hammond. Always. How are you doing this, man? Man. You know, when I used to watch Twitch a lot. I'm not saying you're doing this, by the way. When I used to watch Twitch a lot, I remember one time because Twitch used to have like a Twitch, not used to, it still has like a Twitch Prime thing. This is like a total aside. I'm just anyway. Um, there was a period in time where people were able to like scam gift Prime subs. I don't know if anybody was around on Twitch for that, where people gave away like hundreds of Prime subs by making like these like fake trial Amazon accounts, but then the Prime sub came with, and I don't know if anybody was like in around for that. This is terrible because it almost sounds like I'm implying that Jonathan is giving me give it is I'm not, I wasn't meaning to imply that, but I just remember watching some streams back then where someone was like, would give away like 1,000 and they were all fake and like, anyway, not a scam. No, not saying, no. Trust me, I wasn't implying that. This was like 2017, like, yeah, way back. It was like this very strange thing with Amazon Prime back then. And anyway, yeah, there was people like doing stuff back then. Sorry. Sorry. No, Jonathan, don't go. Jonathan Hammond is obviously a wonderful guy who's been in every single channel. When I'm on The View, he's over there donating to United View. When you look at any channel in United Community, Jonathan is there contributing, and it's awesome. It's actually really, really amazing. You've got a sales leadership course that you sell for $5.99. Listen, let me get involved. You can sponsor the stream. You can sponsor the videos. I have no real sponsor right now. Let's do it. I'm a sales guy. Let's sell. Let's make some money. Let us. What's the alternative? The Jonathan. Let's do Jonathan University. Hammond University for sales legends. Okay, without all of without all of the other stuff that goes with that. Let's do it. Jonathan University. We'll put it on the bottom. # Jonathan University. Teach people how to sell, how to make a living. Sorry, we're getting way off track here. Way off track here. No, no. All right. Anyway, I apologize. Way off track here. All right. But let's be real for a minute. All right. Um, this is this is potentially a good thing. All right, because I'll tell you why. The simple fact is that Liam Delap is not that great. All right, end of the day, Jurassic Park is your fortune. I'm in. That's the best way to make money is through Jurassic Park. He's got the brains, you've got the looks. I don't know. Do I? I don't know about that. But look, let's be real. Let's be real for a second. Let's be real for a second about Liam Delap. All right, I'm gonna analyzing our Jewish. What is that? What did you say? What is that? What kind of message is that? You're gonna need to clarify that. That is a message. I am not understanding that. You don't want me to. This is the last thing I want to talk about right now. Anyway, the reality is, of course, that the risk has always been there that Liam Delap could end up going to Chelsea or to another club. And the situation here is that, it's always thrown me to a degree personally, that, at 22 years old, relegated player, why are we holding on for this? You know what I mean? Like what is the reason that that we all have to be waiting for this? And I was gonna come on here and say, listen, it's kind of a bit of a joke that we have to wait another week for this. Why? What's the point? To me, that sounds like he's headed to Chelsea anyway. I was going to say that too, because Chelsea have a final still right now. today in like 10 minutes. Um, they have a meeting this weekend. Um, and then, you know, they're going to essentially move forward with their targets. And it makes me think that that is the direction of travel for them, that that's where they're going, is towards, for Delap, is that he's just waiting for that. Um, because why else would he have to wait? I understand that, of course, it's a good move. Like, let's be real for a second, because I can go over the top. What if he turns around and he joins us? I don't want to sit here, you know, beating this guy with a stick ahead of this, okay? But what I will say is that he is a good value player. He's a good value player at 30 million. I don't think he solves our problem. I get seriously concerned about, you know, this type of thing, because as I mentioned before, my biggest concern is this, is getting a player who isn't ready yet, who needs to develop, and having them be the number 9 for Manchester United. Um, to me, that's a serious concern. Okay. That's a serious concern, because I think that United's different, man. It's different. It is different, but it's not just United. It's actually true of all clubs. Let me see if I can go back and find this thing that I made a long time ago, a few months ago. I did a video. No, it was in April, so it wasn't that long ago. I did a video on the striker side of things, and I said, look, my concern is, what do you get when you buy a young striker? All right. Um, Whoa, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell, man? All right, hold on a second. Just moving something real quick, because when I did a lot of research on young strikers, it was pretty concerning, you know, when you asked them to lead the line, let's say. Um, the you know, the overall success rate was concerning, when you asked them to leave the line. What the hell? Come on. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull this up, and then you guys can argue with me on, if you want, on this, um, about the players who've moved, what happened, where they went. Ayush, welcome to the Pro Muppet. Let's see here. Let's see if this does this right. Yeah, so I looked at this and I said, when you talk about it, is that, most clubs don't win with buying young strikers who develop. Um, and you look at the names that have gone, in terms of all the young, and I looked at the strikers under 23 who transferred to biggish clubs, and I did it over just based on price and things like that. So if you look at it, Mbappe, all right, that's one of the successes. João Felix, a flop. Nunez, a flop. Vlahovic, a flop. Havertz was a flop to Chelsea. Osimhen was a success, one of the only successes, right? Hojlund was a flop. Isak was a success. Ramos was a flop. Jovic was a flop. Haaland was a success. Martial, is he a success or failure? I don't know, honestly, for us. Jota was a success, but I'm not even sure he actually led the line for them. And then Patrick Schick to Roma was a flop. And so I really just looked at, like, you know, based on the most expensive, you know, signings, that were done, were they successes or failures, right? And it was 5 out of 15 were successful. However, even in those cases, if you look at the names, even if you consider Jota a success, another season of Hojlund, no, not another season of Hojlund. Even if you look at the names that succeeded, you're talking about Mbappe, Osimhen, who we're passing on, Isak, which is one of the few examples, like literally, but Isak went to Newcastle before they were big again. True? Right? Would you agree that when Isak joined Newcastle, they were kind of still on, like, this regrowth from being this middling club for many, many years, and now they're finally up at the top. So he got time to grow without the pressure at a big club, at a top club, at a club that's getting, that has the kind of pressure you get at a top club, even there, right? I don't know, maybe Napoli is somewhat similar. Hojlund was already blowing the world up. Sammy Ball gifting memberships. There you go, Sammy. I promise you, he did not buy moderator. Real Mo Great, Christian, Abi, Patrick, and Jesper getting gifts as well. Thank you for that. I think Vlahovic at Juventus is a flop by the way that they've measured him. As far as I've heard, they're really not happy with him. But Isak got time to move. Lukaku was by the time he moved to us, what was he with 24, 25? He wasn't under 23 from what I recall. That's why he didn't make it onto my list. I think he made it on a successful list, right? There's a lot of flops when you buy young strikers. It's a lot of flops when you buy young strikers. It just is. Tammy Abraham. I missed one. Tammy Abraham went to Roma. He got injured and all that, but it was still not successful. Then you look at the striker transfers from 23. There's a few flops on here. There's a lot of successes. Okay, I was looking at it by cost. There was Griezmann to Barcelona was a flop. Now, that being said, Griezmann is an amazing player, and it just didn't work at Barcelona. Lukaku to Chelsea was a flop, but it didn't work at Chelsea. He went off to Italy and has kicked on again. Kane, success. Ronaldo, success. Higuain, success. Lukaku, I strongly consider a success for us. Suarez, success. Zlatan, success. Lukaku to Inter, a success. Cavani, a success. Morata was a failure. Aubameyang, kind of a failure, kind of not. Rashmanu, another gift. Appreciate it so much. 5 more gifted. Jamal, Mike, Victor, Precious, and Paul getting the gifts. Aubameyang, yes and no. Then we got to go all the way to Torres, who was a flop, Crespo, who was a success, and Lacazette, who was a flop. However, if you look at the flops, it's almost all Chelsea. Chelsea bringing back Lukaku was a mistake. Morata and Torres. And another 5 from Glenn, Abjit, Mark, Justin, Ben, and Spike. Appreciate you guys so much. They got the gifts. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Glenn C. Thank you, Rushmano. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Jonathan. All of those, right? I appreciate you all very, very much. At this rate, everybody will. But no, seriously, like I looked into this a while back and I thought, this is a bit of a concern when you look at like the realities of buying strikers. When you buy number 9s and they move to big clubs, they get screwed. And whoever goes to Chelsea, if they're under 23, well, think about it. Nkunku, flop. Jackson, apparently they're now kicking him out. These young strikers who go to these clubs and are asked to, I don't think Aubameyang was a failure either. I mean, he practically won the Golden Boot, right? So I don't think he was a failure either. So the success rate is actually quite high for established strikers. In fact, it's almost the most established, the best hit rate in football is older strikers. It's kind of wild. Like, you don't get a 70-80% success rate at any position in football except striker. Because I think the fact of the matter is, you go and you score goals, then if you've been doing that for years to the point where you're 25, 26, 27, then if you can still do that at that point in time, you're going to succeed anywhere. You know how to score goals if you've been able to do that up to that point in your career. And you have to learn until you get to that point. Alex, thank you for rejoining. Keep up the great work. Who's your pick for center mid signing? Me, Ederson. I really, really like Ederson. And this even turned me off Samu Aghawa, who I really like as a player, but I also think is too young for the amount of money. He's too young. He is going to be under an immense pressure if he were to come here to develop his game. And that's why I wouldn't risk it. Delap was one who, at his price, Delap at his price was a good option where you can get somebody older also, maybe, which is what I would do if you were going to get Delap is get him and another striker. But it's, as the leading guy, that it is risky. It is super, super risky. The success rate is so low. And the guys who are successful, it's like you knew Hojlund was going to be successful. He was already blowing up the Champions League left and right, You knew that Mbappe was Mbappe, So like the successful ones are pretty rare. Pretty rare. I mean, Martial fits almost one of the is almost one of the most successful young strikers purchased, which is kind of wild to believe given the roller coaster that's been his career. So I'm not on board personally. I think that it's a big risk anyway with United going for a young striker. Another one that we've been linked with that I certainly wouldn't sign is Moise Kean, because he did the same thing. He went to he wasn't even a big club, right? But he came to the Premier League at a young age, and then he fell apart. A lot of fans said when Hojlund was signed, United needed experience. Exactly. The problem is we paid 72 million for him instead of the 30, 40 it was supposed to be, so that we could get another striker on top. He was supposed to be the second guy. He was supposed to be two if you were going to get him. Look at Darwin Nunez. That was another example, right, of that we spoke about on a flop. He's actually a not even as bad a player as he seems, but he went to Liverpool and the pressure was just too high, and he's kind of fallen off there. Yeah, play your trade as a striker. Yeah. It doesn't happen. It just takes that experience. It takes that experience to get there. Signing Delap would, yeah, exactly. We would need an experienced striker. And if you look at the numbers on it, and you go to this is Rasmus Hojlund, and you look at last season, 12 goals and assists and 11 in Serie A in 2,100 minutes. 18. So you look at that and then you compare it to Delap and you go, it's not exactly more impressive. You run the same risk. I'm not saying they're the same player. Don't get me wrong. But he took 2 penalties. So he actually scored fewer per minute than Hojlund did in the league last year. Fewer per minute. And so it's concerning to me, because I'm just like, there is the potential for a player to fall off, from these kinds of numbers. They're similar in terms of output, in terms of production, not in terms of watching the player and saying they're the same player, blah, blah, blah. Looks like we're missing out on Gyokeres NOT and Mbeumo. No, European football is hurting us more than we think. Well, I don't know that we're missing out on all of them. Well, it was the prem for Hojlund too. Hojlund scored as many non-penalty goals as Delap in 400 fewer minutes last season. So it's not like this crazy impressive, statistic. We're not seeing anything that's like, out of the ordinary here to suggest that, Delap has more production. Now, you might say that it was in a team that he would have gotten more because he was playing for Ipswich, and I think that you could have a fair discussion there. When you look at it, you can see same XG, same MPXG, but look, the passes received both were on the lowest number. So it's not like Hojlund got a much better, like many, many more passes. Yeah, last season, not this one. Not like he got many, many more passes. So, it is, to me, it is a concern. It is a risk. I get people saying, hold on, let me just compare something. I get I get it. You got to look at players and all of that as well, but we got a lot of plays on the counter, no doubt, compared to Ipswich. That's for sure. But it's just a risk. You're late, but did I say anything about Gyokeres? No. However, the Athletic reported that whoever Arsenal sign, they're unlikely to be the starter at Arsenal, and Kai Havertz will likely be the main starter. There's no chance in hell that they're signing Victor Gyokeres in that case. You understand? There's no way. There's no way that they're signing Victor Gyokeres to be the backup. And it's been kind of going this way a long time. That perhaps Arsenal are not really in for Victor Gyokeres. And that they're not going to make that kind of move, because I think Arteta, with his terrorismo type of football, is so obsessed with needing a nine who's like this crazy, who's like a ball player, who's basically a false nine. Like, they probably would be taking Xerxes if they could get him right now, in there. They're so obsessed with that, it seems like, that it's messing up, any of their plans. He really likes this like false nine. Šeško is a little more flexible, but he also plays very different positionally. He drops in a lot. German league, probably similar to the way Havertz operates in a lot of ways. So I could see it going the same way if they go for him. Now, there was an article saying that they had to pay like 93 or 100 million for Šeško, but I don't think that's correct. I believe he has a release clause. So I don't know about that. But for my money, when I look at the state that we're in and what is going on right now, I'm going for Mateta or Gyokeres and saying, let's just put a striker in the bag. You know what I mean? Let's get somebody who's more proven. Let's get somebody who's been there. We're interested in both of them. Let's just make the move. Let's just make the move. Betis winning. 1-0 Betis. Who scored? Who scored? Anybody relevant to us? I kind of want Chelsea to win so they keep Sancho, but that is looking not so good. I have a strong feeling that that they're going to send us back Sancho and take Delap after their meeting. That is exactly what was going to be happening. Abde. Fair. That's my concern in terms of what's happening now. But we do have other options, and I think that I'm just wondering, because as we heard before, about what we wanted. One second. Apologies. Anyway, sorry. Just answering something. But no, I think that a couple, like last week before the Europa League final, we were talking about Gyokeres a lot. And saying, maybe we would want to move for Gyokeres to go get a bigger striker. And now it's gotten really, really quiet. And I think that one of two things is happening right now, based on all the links and everything, or maybe both, is that we're working on both Gyokeres quietly and Mbeumo quietly-ish, and seeing what we can get done while we are also needing to line up sales. That's what I think is going on at the moment. Because if we can get Mbeumo, there's definitely a willingness. If we can get Mbeumo, there's a willingness to, play someone like Xerxes as in there and solve the striker thing a bit later. It may not be such a rush on, like, besides Delap, we may not have a rush at striker right now. Because I think Gyokeres is willing to take his time to make his decision on where he's gonna go. I don't think that Mateta is going anywhere rather quickly. Both of those players are expected to take time to sort out their futures if they are leaving. Mateta may not leave at all. There's a very good chance he doesn't leave at all. So if in that case where it may be more time and where the competition may be lesser, then going for somebody that is more competition, someone like Mbumo, that there's more competition for, may be smarter right now. So obviously they're gonna want to play their cards pretty close to their chest in terms of how they work everything out. In terms of the strategy, but we were at least seeing what's happening with Gyokeres and remaining informed on that. We are working on and trying on Mbumo and seeing if we can get anywhere. So I believe that's the direction, honestly, that we're going, is that in the case that we don't get Liam Delap, which is looking more and more likely, then we have alternative ways to get a deal done and get us the striker that we need, or to fix the attack in any case. I'm just thinking this through. Just straight up, we were looking at Gyokeres, we were continuing to follow up on that, and we were continuing to follow up on Mbumo. And so I think that we're lining up these scenarios. We don't know exactly how it'll play out, but lining up these scenarios for something like this to potentially happen. Who's going to be sold first this summer? Probably Garnacho, I would imagine. Gyokeres maybe been told we'll buy him later after sales. And that's possible, Samix. Like, it's an interesting one. It is possible. It is very possible that something like this could happen. Hold on one second. Sorry. Empty chair, empty chair. But yeah, I do wonder about some of those things. Because obviously we don't want everything to be out in the open, and there's a good chance that we do want things to be somewhat quiet. We do want things to, we don't want to get beaten. We don't want to get killed on all of this. Maybe it'll open up some new options for us as well. But I do believe that United can move quickly and quietly on things, and that is the possibility that I see. And the one thing I keep going back to is one individual, all right, in the market right now. And that is who reports on stuff, and that's Fabrizio as well. Because he was obviously very, very tight on the Cunha deal, on when it was done, on things like that. He's been tight. He was tight on the Dorgu deal. He was actually ahead on probably the last 3 or 4 signings that we've made, including, I think he was on Kone, and some other things as well. And the reason I mention that is that he's been very, very quiet on Delap. Um, but he's talked a lot more in recent times about Mbumo, about sales, and about keeping an eye on what happens to Victor Gyokeres. King Ragnar, do you reckon we'll go hard on Mbumo now? Yeah. Dominic, Eric screwed us by only signing Hojlund. Should have gotten Thuram or a senior with him. Can we ban Jack for a few hours? Here's a $5. um, I can't have paid bans or it gets really dangerous because people pay to be in those channels too. But no, I think that we are working on these alternatives. We know for a fact. You go through the thread. I know that my thread was accurate. I still know that we are also interested in dibbling. So the way I see it is we're working on Gyokeres, we're working on Mbumo, we're working on dibbling, and we're working on these other deals at the same time. And if Delap does fully turn us down, and if we're sure of it, then we will probably very quickly make a move. There's a chance we make a move for Mbumo first, though, before someone like Gyokeres, and there's a chance we make a move for someone like him immediately because we really like Mbumo, and then figure out the striker a little bit later, and see if we can convince. And personally, I would be happy with that. Let me ask you guys a question. If we had to kind of decide, like let's say we miss on Delap, and if we move quickly, we can get one of these guys. Who would you like it to be? I think it's a tough question. I expect Gyokeres will probably win, but I think it's a tough question because I think Mbumo is really good, and obviously both would be better. But if we had a chance, it is a tough choice because like we need a striker, but Mbumo's really good. Like I think Mbumo is more proven. He's a more guaranteed success. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But an 80 goals and assist striker is pretty big. Fiverr reminds me of the tweet for Gray. Bruno at right 10 is enough? I don't think so. I'm not gonna lie to you. I kid, mate. Love the Patreon and YouTube. Thanks, Dominic. Appreciate you very much. While we're letting the poll, a couple other pieces of news that I wanted to cover. As I understand it, the Alvaro to Madrid deal is moving a bit closer, and we should be able to see that happen sooner rather than later. That will give us more money, so we need that to get done. In addition, obviously, Marcus Rashford in discussions with Barcelona. That one is likely going to keep pushing together for a while here to try to get that done, because that's something he really, really does want. And I would suggest that there might be some flexibility in that because it's the desirable move. It may help us all agree terms on something like that. I don't really know what Barcelona are going to do yet, but yeah, we don't really know what Barcelona are going to do yet, but yeah, it's an interesting one. In terms of what their other options are, but it's very much the preferred deal for Marcus Rashford, and so I think that really helps us. That there may be some flexibility on wages and things like that. GC, we will move on a lot of homegrown players. We need 8. How many in academy will now be of age where we must register them and they can't be unregistered? That's a good point, but if we're going for a smaller squad, that's okay. If we get Gyokeres or Mbumo, I'm buying you a steak dinner. Well, hey, I appreciate that. I would love to have either one of those guys. I'd be incredibly happy. But listen, on that homegrown thing, which is a good point. The question is there, who would it be? Tom Heaton, Harry Maguire. I know there's more, so just give me a minute. I think Aiden Heaven qualifies as homegrown. Technically, Luke Shaw. You may not like the homegrown players. Kobbie Mainoo, Mason Mount. And then maybe we'll add on a couple more. I mean, we could, and then we could use two from the. We could Collier could be there. Amos could be there. I don't think Ahmad qualifies unless I'm mistaken. Does Ahmad? I feel like he missed it by 6 months or something from what I remember. Collier, Amos, any of the other young players that are in there. Cheeto. We just would have to register a couple players. That won't be a big deal. Yeah, and some are young enough we wouldn't usually have to. It doesn't matter United or not, Big Stu. For homegrown, as long as they are homegrown in England, it's okay. That's what matters. Yeah, we could do a third keeper, Harrison. Yep. There's a number. I think Ahmad was too late, from what I remember. But yeah, we'll have to probably register two, unless we get more English players in this window, which is possible. That's possible. It's always possible. Napoli are keeping Conte. Well, that means they should really want Alejandro Garnacho. But yeah, if we buy Vanya would be one. Yep. You grew in your home? Is there any world where we get Dipling and Mbumo this year? No, I don't think so. I don't have any new updates on goalkeeper except that we are keeping abreast of the options. But yeah, now that Conte is likely to stay, then that is very, very meaningful. That could very much push because he's going to want guarantees to stay. And I think that could definitely push Garnacho to Napoli. All right, so the vote is in. Gyokeres wins it by a bit. I can't disagree with you guys because, man, I want a striker. Gyokeres was at Brighton Youth. Is he homegrown? That's a really good question. How many years did he spend there before? No, because he only went to Brighton when he was 19, so no. No, too old. Cardoso looking very good. He's a good player. But yeah, look, we want 3 forwards. So no Delap would mean we push for Mbeumo and not Gyokeres. Not necessarily. It's just that we have both options on the table right now. We have both options kind of on the table as people we can pursue. I think Mantato, I think he's injured or something, but we'll find out soon. On that. Delap not coming would be a massive blessing in disguise. Makes Ineos go out and back Emma with Mbumo or Gyokeres. Great shows always. Thanks, Anthony. King Ragnar, what's the hunch? Mbumo, Gyokeres, Masta, Mateta, Sheshko. I think no to Sheshko because the cost is insane. I think Mateta's still really... hard to get out of there. I can't call it right now, but look, here's my suspicion, okay? Here's my suspicion. I don't think these guys are stupid. Based on today, 50% of the tour players can leave tomorrow. Agreed. Here's my suspicion, okay? This is what I want to say. I don't think these people are stupid. And even though I have my doubts about this whole Delap thing in general, I think that they're not stupid enough to sit there hanging their hat on that and hoping that it happens with no alternative plans set up. In the last few weeks, we've heard a lot about Victor Gyokeres, and we've heard a lot about Mbeumo. And we know for a fact that they were having talks. And so I would strongly suggest, based on all the available information, that they are, in fact, moving on different targets at the same time, and that they will have a plan in place for, Delap turning us down, that they still have to execute. Because if Gyokeres isn't going to Arsenal, I don't know where he's going. Liverpool are definitely in the market for a striker, but I don't know, man. For some reason, I still think Liverpool might end up going for Osimhen. For some reason, I still think they might go for Osimhen in the end. Don't know why. Don't know why I think that, but I do. I just think that. And Ineos need to back Ruben pretty heavily here. Cunha's a good start, but they really need to back him, and I just feel that we can get something done. Someone mentioned Jonathan Burkhart. I did a piece on Jonathan Burkhart like 2 or 3 years ago. Interesting player, but I don't think he'd be good enough. Or maybe it's Ekitike or something. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have anything new on Hackney or anybody like that. Yeah, I mean, last summer was a bit of a mess because we spent all fucking June waiting for the decision on Ten Hag that was a decision they'd already made, and Ashworth to come in, and Barada wasn't even in the building. But once they got in the building, we actually did get a lot of deals done pretty fast. Yoro, Xerxes, these deals actually happened pretty damn quick once we got them in the building. So I don't think we're going to take too long. Is Mount injured? It's a good question. I think he probably isn't fully fit considering he didn't play. That's definitely a downside. I don't think we're looking at Jonathan David. We're looking at more intense and physical players. We keep talking about whom we want. Yeah, we're 16th, no European manager under pressure. Why would we be first choice for any player? I get that, but the main draw is Cunha wanted it. The main draw is whatever the Manchester United aspect of it is, whether it's money or something else that comes into play with it. It still has some impact. Like with Cunha. But it is hard. I mean, that's why we might lose Delap. That's why we might not be able to get Gyokeres. But at the same time, the Premier League itself is a big draw. So if Gyokeres wants to leave, where would he go? These are the questions. Cunha and Mbeumo give me Salamane. They really do to me as well. They really, really do. I think they're really, really solid players. Yeah, I mean, Cunha was definitely like how we were able to just easily get him. That's good stuff. That really is good stuff. But no, look, I really do think we still want Victor Gyokeres. I mean, I really do. I really do think we want him still. There's the brand aspect, there's the name aspect, there's the the guy who wants to be the savior, the savior complex. I think that all of those things matter, you know. Whether they should or they shouldn't is another story. I always think it's funny, people talking about these games, because I do have the game on, by the way, on the side. But like you get all this hype about Chelsea and their midfielders and how they have these great, amazing midfielders, and now people are sitting there going, "Well, wait, Cardoso is so much better than them." But wait, I thought Caicedo was like the shit. And then Spanish clubs we just fucking ran through with our shin kickers, supposedly. Football's just a funny game. I want victory as both feet and very direct. I do too. Victor Gyokeres, the thing you got to say about Victor Gyokeres and why I'm positive that he will score no matter where he goes is just watch him play. The guy smashes the ball like it's an abusive parent. I mean, like he destroys the thing when he kicks it. He has insane. It's like he's angry when he hits that ball with both feet. It's like he's just angry when he kicks it with both feet, and he puts so much power and direction into it. He's an incredible shooter. Yeah, kind of like Rooney. Like he really, really blasts the ball, has an insane work rate, and is not terrified of getting the goal, the shot off from absolutely anywhere. I don't think he'll score 35 in the Premier League, of course not. I don't think he's that level of player, but I do think he'll get 15, 20 goals. Yeah, he really, really does. Casemiro was way worse than Ugarte, but people don't want to admit that. But yeah, we do need someone like Gyokeres. He like just the fact that if you watch his shooting with both feet, it is something. The way it just have, it just kind of baffles my mind when we watch it. Like just he has power. He has so much power. He has so much pace. He has so much directness. He has so much work rate. He has such a good run, such a good sprint. He is such an absolute handful to deal with. And that's what's the most impressive thing to me. There was a stat I wanted to there was a thing I wanted to share, which is why I feel really good about him. Let me try to find this article because I saw it a while back and it was like such a cool article from this place, and it was really cool. Here. Nice. All right, let me pull this up. All right. This was from these guys. They put this piece together. Okay, come on, thing. Show me it on the screen. There we go. They put this piece together talking about this thing they called like the power forward, okay? And it was about the number and speed of runs that he makes. And it was like increasing intensity, right? So it's talking about how in football there's more intense actions every single season. That's why sometimes you're seeing more injuries and things like that too. But every season you can see how this intensity has gone way up. High intensity actions are increasing, sprint velocity, how often teams and players are sprinting and things like that. And then you look at like this, right? Like in terms of center forwards, like when you look at this overall, he's runs in behind per match and sprint velocity. He's fast as hell and he constantly runs. He literally never stops running. And you look, striker runs received per match. Like he just does not stop. Look at Hojlund over here. Look at Hojlund over here, by the way. He's on another planet with his work rate, with what he does. Like it's actually unbelievable. He never stops and he does it at high speed. And that's what their post was basically talking about, is like runs in behind received, all of that, like just runs and just does not stop. And that's, I think, something that is super impressive. I think that is super, super impressive from him. And I think it's why no matter where he goes, that's why I'm so surprised by how underrated he is, because when a player is like that, no matter where they go, when they have pace, when they have that work rate, and when they can shoot, they will find the ball. Um, they will find the ball. Um, and that's an interesting one. Um, in that respect. And I'm really quite satisfied with him as a player, that he's going to score goals wherever he goes in football. Physically he's insane. Like it's just I don't know, man. Like I'm trying to think, is there a player who is that physically capable with that level of end product, with that level of speed and that level of power, that hasn't been successful as a striker? Like I'm trying to think of anybody I've seen similarly. Like who has been like that has not been that successful, who has not been good. I can't even think of, like, what would you call, what is a similar player um that we've seen that has been poor? I mean, I can think of many strikers that have done really, really well, but no, he doesn't have a trampoline first touch. People said the same shit about Lukaku, and they were totally wrong. Lukaku was quality. Lukaku was a good player, and people used to just prattle on about his first touch. Um, and meanwhile, he scored goals, man. Like, he scored goals. Most strikers are better in transition. I mean, that's the truth of the matter, right? But a lot of modern football, in terms of its intensity, is about creating those transitions. Jamie Vardy, there's a good example of a player who's like that, who's a similar style of player. Yep, I would say that. And that's sort of what had him being successful and kind of burst onto the scene in the way that he did, because he was so intense in how he played. Um, so intense that it, never stopped. But no, Senex, that's not the true. That's not true about the midfield making those passes. Those passes are not coming from the midfield. Those passes are coming from the fullbacks, the wingbacks. The runs that are made in that Sporting team is not about through balls from the midfield. It never has been. Never ever has been. Um, Vlahovic has some similarities. I mean, Suarez was another planet of technical ability. Um, but no, I just don't remember guys being unsuccessful in that respect. Lukaku didn't have an amazing first touch, but the thing is I strongly think that people overrate that aspect, like so strongly overrate certain things. Um, I think they really, really overrate, certain things when it comes to certain positions, and they focus on the wrong things. So that's all. Yeah, Vlahovic doesn't quite have the same level of pace and power. Um, Mark Hughes was a beast of a striker. Yeah, wingbacks need to be much better with the passes than the wingbacks need to be able. Yes, I mean, it's very much. I've tried to explain many times the way that that Sporting play. Um, but it's hard to, really, really explain it. It depends on the type of player that. Yeah, I agree. The whole first touch thing depends on the type of player that you are. But I really think people still haven't. It's kind of a shame. Like, one thing that is unfortunate about our season is that the team's been so bad, that people haven't quite grasped what Amarim ball actually looks like, because most people did not watch Sporting, and I'm not blaming most people. Why would most people watch Portuguese league football? Most people never watched it, not once in their life. Um, and Most of them didn't, and that's the thing that kind of is interesting to me. And so I think that a lot of people still have a bit of a strong misconception about how the football is played, in for sporting, and what is, I mean, there's a reason like we wanted Giovanni Quenda, but if you look at the actual ways that a sporting team attack, these guys, these tens are supposed to come like literally out deep, 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 okay? Practically at times behind the midfielders so that you can actually make passes direct from the goalkeeper to them. They're supposed to be able to receive from for straight out the back. You want these angles from the goalkeeper and from the center backs for these tens, forming these channels where you have so many passing options, because this is how you're beating the buildup. Then what's often happening is you have your striker at the same time, when these guys are dragging their center backs, running into the corners so that you can get the balls through to those corners and on the run to them. Gyokeres receives the ball running into these channels all the time. But you also get, the game where this guy drops in. They have to, yes, GC. Wingbacks in the system have to be super intelligent in their decisions to sit or make a back five, stay in mid. Exactly. It's very, very, it's really quite intriguing. And the thing that is disappointing is that I really don't think we've seen it, because firstly, our left 10 only runs like this when it's Garnacho. Our left 10 runs like this. That's all he does. And so what does that mean? That means he's the outlet and Rasmus Hojlund's dropping in to receive passes, and he can't do anything in that situation. Against low blocks, it's really typical. It's a typical 3-3-1-6, like you would see from Pep or anybody. It's a very, very typical 3-1-6. Get the ball out wide, get the tens and the wingbacks running in on each other, wingers and fullbacks. It's the same thing once you get to the final third, and get your cutbacks in and get one midfielder attacking. It's quite literally in the final third the same as any modern football attack. It should be no different. But this is the idea, is that in build up, very often it's even forming like a 3-6-1, at times, and creating different ways and different runs. And it's all about doing this and making this run, or at times then having you run into the channel, or at times a striker running in the channel. It's knowing when to drop. It's knowing when to have people run in. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is, and what it would look like with this. And it's having one player here in the midfield as well who can join the attack, which it seems like right now the implication is that it will be Bruno. But if you watch Giovanni Quenda play, for example, he drops in here a lot. And there's a lot of interplay, but sometimes the 10 runs up here and he sends them through. A lot of times the striker's running here, he sends them through. So many games are done like that, but we really haven't seen it at United. But yeah, in the final third, you want a striker who occupies, you want the 10s playing with the wingbacks, and you want this midfielder arriving late at the top of the box most of the time. And then you want your cleanup guy to make sure you don't get hit too hard on the counter. And then even in addition to that, which we saw with Lissandro briefly, we started to see it before he got injured. This guy, you want him running up in here, and making, that extra run into the box where the midfielder can even drop out and cover behind them to just confuse and break the lines. These center backs can be very, very aggressive, in that respect. So it is disappointing, because I still feel like most people who talk about Sporting, even tactically and all of that, really only watched them in the Champions League. It was so much more interesting to watch them in the league, to see how they did things and to see how all the dynamics changed. And the biggest disappointment that I've had is that our 10s have been so poor at fitting into the build-up structure, just naturally, that it doesn't work. But this isn't that unusual of a system either in modern football. If you switch this to a yeah, we've seen Euro make those runs. I mean, if you switch, this isn't that different, frankly, to how Wolves play. This isn't that different, frankly, to even how Brentford play at times when they play direct and on the break. You know, I don't know. It's not really that different to them. It's just occupying slightly different spots. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that the biggest missing thing is a striker who can confidently, constantly run into the channels, right? That's one. Constantly run into the channels and find his place. Well, there's strikers like that. You know, yes, Delap fits that profile to a degree. I just don't think he's good enough personally. Gyokeres fits that profile 100%. It requires 10s who can drop and pick the ball up deep, like Cunha, like Mbumo, who can dribble with the ball. There's plenty of players who are like that. And in the wing backs, yeah, they have to have pretty good technical qualities to pass, dribble. Like, these wing backs got to be good and they have to be physical because they have to be able to sprint down the lines. I mean, we'll see if Dorgu can get there, but Ait Nouri obviously would have been like the best. But alternatively, which I keep saying, it doesn't actually require like these insanely technical midfielders. I think you could find tons of midfielders that fit these roles. Like, where the burden is on the wide player, on these players over here. But it in the reverse, it reduces the burden on the midfielders. The system's all about wingbacks, and ours are not smart. Final third wingbacks can overlap, making a 5. In the mids, they sit and complete a 4. And in defense, they make an unbreakable 5 that'd be smart and read the game. Right. And I think you saw against Villa that we would often kind of almost press in a 4-4-2, you know, at times where one wingback was up with the midfield and one was deeper. And then when in defense, you drop all the way back into a 5. And in attack, they were doing tons of overlaps against Villa, against that deep block. It was the first time I saw us be brave about it. Mazraoui was getting way up the pitch and way down the pitch, up the pitch, down the pitch. And Dorgu does it well, which is why, even though he hasn't been great, he's actually improved us. Mazraoui was brave in that Villa game, and it was one of the reasons it was more successful early on. Sammy, another 5 gifts. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. You don't have to keep paying me more money. But thank you very much. But yeah, I completely agree with you. But at the same time, Ahmad's very good at this. Now, physically, defensively, he lacks at times a little bit of execution, no doubt about that. But yeah, this is the key. Now, look, the other alternative is something like this, right? If let's say we get Mbumo, we don't get a striker right away. The other alternative, and it's not completely against, his build-up methods, is that you have your 9 drop in. You do it a little more imbalanced, which we saw some more of this season. You get one of these guys to be a bit like they need to be smart about making their outlet runs. So when it goes to the left, Cunha's making that outlet run. When it goes to the right, Mbumo makes that outlet run. And then Xerxes is more dropping into the middle. The difference between it and, of course, with Hojlund is that he can actually receive the ball. He can receive it. He can evade pressure. He can take it down. He can run into the, he can turn. He can do all that kind of shit. And then release the ball out to the wing backs. So you kind of can do it in reverse. And just to be very, very clear, Ruben Amorim also ran a false nine for a few seasons with Paulinho in a similar style of play. So he has the ability to do both of these types of setups. And obviously, when he found Gyokeres and he had that kind of guy there, to him, he was a better player that allowed him to just do that. But he has done it the other way and won a title that way as well. So in the reverse, saying these guys drop all the way and this guy's making all the runs himself, which requires insane work rate, then alternatively, you can do it slightly the other way, where these guys are making the runs, and when this guy's making the run, this guy's dropping in, and you're doing it a bit different. So yeah, they've done different ways of doing this that could work, and I think that there's a decent chance we miss on Delap here, based on everything I know, that we're going for, that we want to push ahead for Mbeumo or Gyokeres, and we're going to get at least one. I think they really want to make sure we get at least one of those two, Gyokeres or Mbeumo, especially if we're missing on Delap. And I think we can do it. I think they could pull it off. It's a big test to me. It'd be a huge test to me, that we have to pull it off, to make that happen. And hopefully they will. If Amorim doesn't want balls from the midfield, why does he play Bruno? It's a good question. He didn't for a long time. He first actually moved Bruno back in the Premier League when Martinez got injured. Because, again, you need a lot of progression and passing from the center backs, right? And you need a lot of progression and passing from the wing backs. We moved Bruno deep when we lost Martinez and when we stopped. He said it specifically, right? We need a way to get the ball forward. And so he dropped Bruno deep from that time. And we still don't have that really solved. And especially because we don't have a 9 who can hold the ball up. We don't have a 9 who can interplay, and we don't have 10s who do the same thing. We really kind of almost need Bruno deep. Because if you think about like Cunha versus Garnacho receiving here, well, Cunha will be dropping into the spaces where Bruno's operating if he's deep to a large degree. But Garnacho doesn't operate in those spaces. So we'll see. Look, I hope he doesn't make a mistake, because he did not. I can see why he's played Bruno deep, but I still think if we have the right team, it's an error, and it will limit us. But without the right players, it's almost necessary, because otherwise it's so hard for us to get the ball out the back without having extra ball players, basically. So we'll see where he goes with it, but it is a limiting factor in this. So, I think at minimum, like maybe like in an ideal world though, what is possible is, all right, we get Mbeumo and Xerxes, or and Xerxes plays, or I'm not saying we can't do both, but it's going to be heavily dependent on sales, or we get Gyokeres, Bruno plays in here, and you still need a midfielder to drop in, and then you go with something like this. And I think this is a really great start to your team as well, right? So there's multiple directions that this whole thing could flow. But I do want to say that, based on information, conversations I've had, and everything that's ongoing, I do believe we are looking at Mbeumo and Gyokeres and such still, so we can make sure we get at least one, in the chance that we're missing Delap, which starts to look possible. And I think that Mbeumo might be the favored one for this. I think Mbeumo might be the favored one right now. But that may be because we have time. That may be because we have time on Gyokeres, and that Mbeumo it's more urgent. That Mbeumo is more of a competition. So it may be that that's the one we have to move faster on. And then if we sell well enough, then we could go for Gyokeres as well, or solve the striker a little bit later. That's my feeling at the moment, is that Mbumo is one that we would want to move earlier on. But hey, we'll see. We need further confirmation on Delap before we're 100% sure we're out of the race. But all signs right now are pointing the other direction. Always been something on the table as far as I know that he goes to Chelsea. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm starting to lean towards the plan, which is convince Mbumo, miss out on Delap, and then we will go and then we will raise funds and still need to solve the striker. An Ederson and Bruno pivot would not be very good. The off ball, they're both too aggressive offensively, and neither one is a good cleanup guy. Hey, I think Mbumo for the price tag is pretty damn good, and he's such a good player too. So anyway, let's end it here. Been another good. I know that the second half of the Conference League game is starting, so yeah, I mean, alternatively, we miss on Mbumo. We go for Dibbling. We figure out how to get Gyokeres. There's a lot of ways we can make this work, right? But I'm convinced that they are working on this, and that they have a plan for one of these guys that we've been hearing about and that I've been hearing about, that we are progressing on at least one of them in the event of missing out on Delap. Because what else can we do? We have to. We have to get something done here, and we want to get one of the players that we want at least. Okay. Like the video on your way out. I'm going to watch the second half of the game. Hope you guys enjoy as well. And then we'll probably be back tomorrow with something else to see where we want to go from here. See if anything else changes. Tomorrow is supposedly the new Bruno deadline, right? So let's see if by end of day tomorrow, if we hear anything else there. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good day. See you.